Well, we'll start off today just keeping our focus on the president's visit to the U.S. Lots of commentary over the weekend all through about this much talked about visit. We're joined now by Professor Bola Akinterinwa, who is the Director General of the NIIA. Thank you for coming on this morning, Prof.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
A lot of focus on this visit. Different adjectives have been used to qualify it. Historic, they look forward to it. But how would you describe the importance of this visit?
I want to believe that it's just a new foundation for a new relationship. That's what it's all about. If you want to take a look at the relationship between 1999 and 2015, you will discover that there have been three stages: the Obasanjo stage, the Yar'Adua stage, and the Jonathanian stage. In all the stages, the relationship was quite interesting under Obasanjo, less interesting under Yar'Adua, and further less interesting under Jonathan. The dynamics are quite different. So what is happening is that under President Jonathan, for instance, there were different allegations, certainly not founded by the United States, and to the extent that on the eve of the presidential elections, the relationship between Nigeria and the United States could be said to be at its lowest ebb. So now, when the United States discovered that we now have a new president, and since they are particularly interested in having...
You said you discovered.
Yes, precisely. We have to say discover. Why?
Well,
please,
yeah.
When General Buhari was head of state, not president, when he was head of state, his attitudinal disposition to the West was a little bit hostile, defined by protection of national interest. All right? That was the basis upon which General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida himself ousted him, and in his explanations, he underscored this word, hostility, that, look, our traditional friends, we are no longer friendly with them. The issue of barter, 500 in exchange for oil, that is shatter, barter, trade by barter, which he put in place by that time. It didn't go well with the West. So this time, the West was quite happy when Ibrahim Babangida took over from him. So now, this type of visit is to ensure that this same Muhammadu Buhari is not hostile to them, and that he is coming as more as a friend.
So this interest, is it not supposed to be bilateral?
Well, it's supposed to be bilateral, but we also have multilateral interests as well. Aid, assistance is given within the framework of bilateral, trilateral, plurilateral, and multilateral levels. They will donate some money to a multilateral organization that will now assume responsibility for its distribution. Okay? But people prefer bilateral relationship because you have the means, all right, of control, of influencing. Generally, if African countries have been having problems with the Europeans, it's because the European countries will want their money spent on particular projects which may not be of priority to African countries. So that's where the importance of bilateral dimension comes in.
Let me bring in this word I used, national interest. It popped up while you were explaining certain things. The president, there were some changes. I mean, we saw the new service chiefs also come in, as well as some of the actions he took before this trip. And one wonders, what do you think he really is looking forward to? We know that they've spoken about the fact that security and economy will feature prominently among several other discussions with that 33-man delegation. What do you think will be our interest that will be going to protect that? Because if it has to do with oil, times have changed.
Yeah, many are the interests. You see, your question is very pertinent and thought-provoking. By appointing new service chiefs, there are many ways of looking at the strategic implications. What prompted it? The first is that if we go down the memory lane, especially to the time of General Malu, the military had been against, you know, some American policies, like the AFRICOM. Okay. There were some people belonging to a school of thought that did not want the AFRICOM. You have another school of thought that was advocating by that time. Malu himself will be removed because of his opposition to the policy that was put in place. Now, in a new set of relationship thinking, if you still keep the old school of thought, it's going to be more of a new wine in old bottle, and it wouldn't augur well. So you need a new set of people that will now have to be oriented towards what the new president is looking at. That's one way of looking at it. The second way is that the same old set of military had problems with the same America when we were asking for help, and the United States will say, look, we do not trust these people, and we do not even trust the government of Nigeria, because if we give you weapons, they may find their way to the terrorists. You now discover that this suspicion of the U.S., all right, cannot be sustained if you are talking about laying a new foundation. All right. If you look at it holistically, at the end of the day, why did the United States refuse to give support before, and is now suddenly interested in giving what she refused? That's where seeking the understanding of the dynamics come in, and that's what makes your question very pertinent and thought-provoking. Now, the national interest at stake is the source of the problem the two presidents will have during their discussion.
They will have problems?
Yes. And the problem is this. It's a conflict of interest. On the one hand, many people have argued, and they strongly believe, that the United States does not compromise when it comes to protection of its national interest. If we do agree and take it as a possible hypothesis, based on the empirical cases in the past, we will say, yes, it's very likely that the United States will not budge, will insist on its own interest. Then the other school of thought, which is the Nigerian school of thought, has it that our own Buhari as well is a tough man. When he was head of state, is a no-nonsense head of state. Now as president, would he have changed? No.
But he said he's a reformed Democrat.
No, hold on. Yes, that's in terms of attitudinal disposition. it doesn't have anything to do with his oxygenated blood going through the veins and capillaries. That's the first dynamic. You can have an outer look. What about the inner look? The inner dynamic, which is more difficult to explain. People believe that, yes, he will insist on the protection of Nigeria's national interest as well. Now, if Barack Obama will not change, and then Muhammadu Buhari will also not change, then you cannot strike a compromise. And compromise is about giving and taking, then taking and giving.
The question is,
that's where the problem is.